Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Eros and today we're going to be showing you what you could be doing or should be doing after college or how to pick a career path. Obviously this is a perfect video for anyone who's just finished college or university, or if you're a bit older or later on in your career, you've had a change of mind or heart and you're really not enjoying what you're doing. This is a great video to help you pick out what industry and what area you should be working in. Obviously there's going to be a few questions you're going to be asking yourself when you finish college or university, or when making a career move. The thing is, you're going to be asking yourself, should I go and start my own business? Do I become an entrepreneur? Do I go and work the 9 to 5? Or do I go and work for a big company, a small company? Do I create a big agency, a small agency? All these questions are going to be running through your head, and I want to help you remove the emotionality out of the choice and make a very logical decision based on a few questions that you can answer from this video. However, before I start, I just want to say not everybody should be an entrepreneur. It can be very stressful at times. However, I'm also going to say not everyone should be working for someone. There's a lot of people that are working for someone else who would probably be better off starting their own business or going down that path. Before I start this video, if you find this content useful, which you will of course, hit that like button and smash that subscribe button. There'll be plenty of more content that is useful for your career, lifestyle tips, productivity hacks, the list goes on and on. So the first thing to help you pick what career you should go down is you need to suss out what industry you want to work in. And the reason why we want to pick the industry first before like what area within the industry is because if we get the industry wrong, you're going to have a very difficult time working as an entrepreneur or working for someone else. Because if you don't enjoy what you're working with or working towards, you are going to find it very hard to get into a state called flow. And flow is a state where you can literally do hours and hours and hours of work, and it feels like you've been doing it for 2 minutes because you enjoy it so much. And also, I'll give you another example of flow, non-business or career related. Let's say you go on a date with somebody and you hate the person in front of you. You're sitting there for about 10 minutes, but it could feel like hours and hours that you're spending with time with that person, and it can be really, really irritating. In that sort of scenario, you want to be in the position where you adore the person in front of you and you're spending hours and hours and hours at a restaurant together and it feels like 2 minutes. And that's because you're in flow in that sort of state. And you want to be in flow during your career. So picking the right industry is going to help you out dramatically straight from the start. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of industries out there, so how can you nail down to one industry? And there's a few ways that I'm going to teach you and a few questions that you're going to be able to answer from this video that's going to help you pick that industry first off. If you're interested in learning about flow and the flow state, there's a great book called Flow, and you can buy that on Amazon. I'll leave a link down below. However, it's extremely vital that we get you an industry that is going to put you in flow state. So step one of finding your industry is to do some quizzes. I've done so many different quizzes on workplace habits, the Myers-Briggs test, and that's actually the one that I'm going to recommend within this video. And the reason why the Myers-Briggs is because it's a good foundation and a starting point. However, there are other tests like the Dark Triad test, 5 big personality tests, etc. There's so many tests that you can do. Start with the Myers-Briggs test, a test that incorporates the naming system of the personalities from the Myers-Briggs framework. Is a website called the 16 Personalities Test. This is the foundation I strongly recommend if you don't want to go out there and do loads of different quizzes. This is a great starting point to understand yourself on a deeper level, and it gives you so much insight. It's scary. Like I remember the first time I did the quiz and I was like, wow, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. And then I got family members to do it and they're like, okay, that is literally you to a T. So I'm going to take you over to the computer. So this is the 16 Personalities website. You literally type it into Google and it will pop straight up. You can find the website here. First thing you want to do is press take the test, and it's just going to take you through it. So this is the Neris Type Explorer test. So you go through, you say, yeah, I agree with that, I disagree, etc., etc. And then you keep going, and once you finish the test, it'll bring up your personality type, which is creepy. So I recommend doing this every 6 months or once a year potentially, just to see if your results are consistent. I did this, the last time I did this, I got protagonist, and it is scary how close this is to me. It's great because it'll give you an introduction. It'll tell you if you're extroverted or introverted. intuitive, observant, thinking, feeling, whether you go on, like your judgments are on thinking or if you're going off feeling, judging, prospecting, assertive and turbulent. So as you can see, I'm very, very much in the middle. Apart from feeling, I'm quite pushing over, then assertive, potentially quite assertive. I'm a protagonist, so that's a ENFJ type personality. You're going to go through and you're going to find out yours. It's going to tell you your strengths and weaknesses, the reliable, charismatic, natural leader. And this is going to give you clues on what you should be doing. Like if you're potentially a natural leader, then potentially you should be in a higher role somewhere, or you should go that entrepreneurial route. However, you should look at your weaknesses, and the weaknesses is the main area you should be looking at, because if you can understand your weaknesses, then you're gonna understand how you work and what you need to improve on, and that's what we ideally want to be doing. You can find out career paths, etc. You can literally go down that route and it'll tell you everything. So conclusion is concluding everything. What I do love about this is, which is great to know, is if you scroll down to the bottom, protagonists you may know. So these are going to show you famous people: Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Ben Affleck, all these different people like Jennifer Lawrence, Daenerys from Targaryen, Game of Thrones, Morpheus. Literally, it just gives you a great idea into other people that are that character or that personality trait. Look at that. Protagonists are most likely to keep their cool in a traffic jam. And that's so true. It's weird because I never get angry when I'm in traffic because potentially I'm always on time. So personality types, there's so many different ones. Look, diplomats, sentinels, I can't even pronounce that, explorers. So if you're an entrepreneur, it will literally tell you the different personality types that you can come through. That is the first thing that I recommend doing. Step 1, do some quizzes, find out your personality type, jot that down, and we'll get on to the next step. After you've done a personality test, the second question you want to be asking yourself is, what did you want to do at the age of 14? Your IQ is said to be at its peak at the age of 12, so you can get wiser and your brain performance can go up. However, your IQ will tend to stay very relative to what it was when you were 12, 14-ish. So, and that's why I picked 14, because 14, you're a bit more mature than when you were 12. And also, roughly in this age bracket, you're going to have literally no stress unless you've gone through dramatic things when you're a kid. For a day-to-day person who hasn't had anything dramatic happen to their life or something devastating that's happened to their life, you're pretty much relatively stress-free. Okay, so that's why you were thinking clearly. So what did you want to do at the age of 14? And some people are going to be like, hey, I wanted to be an astronaut, etc. And I know you can do whatever you want in life, but you might potentially not be able to be an astronaut because of the stuff that you studied or the route that you took during your past 10 years. So becoming an astronaut still might give you a clue. So if you wanted to be an astronaut or something really extravagant or really difficult to get into, it might give you a clue that you should be working potentially in the space industry, okay? Or you could go work for NASA or something along those lines. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to go and be an astronaut. Just write down the answer and the next questions will help you tick off and narrow down towards that industry that you should be working in. Next question you want to write down on a bit of paper is, what did you grow up around, okay? The reason why you want to ask yourself this is because there might be some little clues about what you could potentially be good at or what you're going to enjoy or to be wider more in that direction. So if you grew up around people in the medical field, like let's say your dad or mum or both of them were doctors and you spent a lot of time with your parents, your brain is going to be sort of more inclined to be wired towards that route. So I'm not saying it's an exact thing or exact route you should go down. However, it could give you more clues. For example, if your parents were in the medical area or industry or with doctors or dentists, or like you had an uncle who was a dentist and you spent a lot of time with your uncle or auntie and they were in a certain field, that medical area that they were working in could give you a hint into potentially making your own app, for example. You see, it doesn't mean you have to go and be a doctor or a dentist. It's just another indicator on some clues what you could go and do. So if they were in the medical industry, you could go and end up making a medical app that helps people with heart conditions. It's going to help you narrow down what industry you should be working in. Step number 4 is I want you to ask the question of what did your enemies compliment you on? And that could be now or it could be past enemies. And I want to just give you an example of why we choose enemies rather than family members. Because if you go and ask a family or friend, they're just going to give you false hope in essence, unless they're quite straight. My parents are really straight. Like if I was bad at something, they would tell me. However, I could say 95, 98% of families or friends out there are not going to say stuff that's going to upset you. Okay, even though it is the truth. So we all know that friend or that person who tries to sing and their family members have convinced them that they're great at singing because they don't want to upset them, or they've said like, oh, my daughter's or son is beautiful, stunning, and they've entered them into pageants when they're clearly like but ugly, okay? And that's because parents are biased and so are friends because they don't want to upset you. So if we ask an enemy, and I don't literally mean like someone who just wants to like, absolutely kill you, get rid of you off this planet. I don't mean people like that. And if there are people like that, I'd be worried. However, I'm going to give you an example of when I was at secondary school or high school. We used to play in a band, and one of the other bands had this female singer who didn't like me. For whatever reason, she never give me a reason why she didn't like me. It might have been jealousy, it might have been other things. She said to the guitarist that was in my band, look, I don't like Eros. She said that she didn't like me, but he is a good performer, okay? So she gave me something that she passed me on. Even though she hated me with all her guts or whatever it was, she passed me on, but he's a good performer. Meaning that I can get a hint from that because she's unbiased when she's giving me that compliment, which gives me an indication or clue that when I'm slightly confident potentially, or I should go in the performance route, or I should be on stage talking to a camera, all those things. It's giving me a good indication of what I'm good at or what route I should take because she was unbiased. The second reason we think about what enemies have complimented us on is because we're delusional. This is a great example. When you're a kid, you can be slightly delusional because you don't understand things around you. An example of it is when I used to run on the field, and I used to feel like I was like Dash of the Incredibles, and I could like sprint down the 100 meter like incredibly fast. And then you watch yourself back 5-10 years time on tape or video, and you realize you were going extremely slow. And that's because when you're a kid, you're delusional, and some people grow up still quite delusional. So to remove that aspect, that emotionality out of it, you should ask yourself, what did my enemies compliment me on? So that's the 4th question to ask yourself. Jot that down and we'll crack on. The 5th and final question to figure out your industry, that final step, what have you been doing for the last 5 to 10 years? And if you're age 40, 50, 60 and want a career change, this is going to be great because it's going to give you a great indication on what you've already been doing. So then you can move that same knowledge and skill into something else. And basically what we're doing is adjusting what you currently have. So if you've just left uni and you are playing a lot of sport, then that might give you a good indication. If you're at uni and you're into coding or programming, that's going to give you a great indication of what industry you should be going in, because you should then be thinking about, I should go into the tech industry or I should go into the sport industry. The reason why I'm saying this is because you can make money in any industry. I've spoken to people and they're like, yeah, I enjoy music, but there's no money in music. Well, there might be less money in music, let's say, or a certain industry. However, you could still go out and make a new concept, a new app for music. I don't know. I'm sure people who've made apps for music on the iPhone have made a lot of money. You want to be writing down what you've been doing the last 5 to 10 years because that will give you a strong indication of something that you can move and not waste that talent and skill. And basically what you're doing is adjusting what you currently have. Another thing is you don't want to be chasing friends and family and getting that shiny object syndrome, because if you did that personality test, it would have said if you're introverted and extroverted. I'm slightly in the middle, so I'm a bit of both. However, I do see myself potentially as slightly extroverted. I get a real buzz out of doing new things. I'm quite an actionable person and go straight into it. However, that can lead to shiny object syndrome. So really think about what you've been doing for the last 5 to 10 years, and that's going to help alleviate any of these problems. So after all those questions, you really have to go out and experiment and go and shadow someone in that industry. So when I was at uni and before uni, I would go and work at places completely for free. I would go and work at places completely for free for 1 to 2 days. Some people didn't let me. Some people let me in and said, yeah, you can come work here for free for 2 days. It's free labor for them. So I went and worked for a dentist because at the time I was like, oh, a dentist earn a lot of money. I want to become a dentist. So I went to work for a dentist and I worked there for 2 days for free and I hated it. I knew straight away from those 2 days of work, I actually knew after the first day, that it was something that I just do not want to go down, and I do not want to go down that route or industry. Just from testing and shadowing someone, you can find out very quickly if it's the right decision or not. Of course, if you have got baggage such as family and work full time and all these other areas of your life, it's going to be harder to test 12 things. So the rate at what you're testing at is going to be a lot slower. Okay, but however, you can allocate potentially one of your weekends to go and test one place and go and work somewhere for free. If you want to go work in the industry, the restaurant industry, you could go and work somewhere for free for 1 day or 2 days, potentially on the weekend. So yes, if you've got baggage, you're at a later stage in life, yes, it's going to be a slower rate of testing. However, if you're quite young, just finished uni, you have got so much time to test. You can test as much as you want. And I recommend, like I said, 12 different industries, because you might say, yes, I really like this industry, but you've only tested one. It could be that the next industry you go and test, you even love it even more than that industry. And you'll soon find out, basically, after 12 little tests, that what industry you prefer the most and what you want to go down and into. Science says that you should go and test 12 different partners before making your final decision on whether you should marry that person or not. Because after 12 people, you have a relatively good idea of what you don't like in a person and what you do like in a person. And the same applies when shadowing and testing for the industry. What is next? So you've picked your industry, you've tested out your industry. What is next is understand what you should do within that industry. So here you are at the top, you've picked your industry. After you've picked your industry, you need to decide, do I go and work for a business or do I go and become an entrepreneur and start my own thing? Okay? And there's no real answer solution to this. However, your personality type from the test should give you a good indication on what you should do. Like mine was very outgoing, charismatic, natural leader. That means I should potentially go down the entrepreneurial route. However, I could go and work in a business and work myself to the top, because if you're a good leader, you can work well within a business. So there's no real defined answer to it. However, and I don't want you to take this quite literally, if you're an anxious person with high anxiety, it will be slightly harder to do entrepreneurship. And the reason why I say that is because entrepreneurship is stressful at times, to the point where, yeah, you have to work to pay your bills. If you do not work and don't get through those hard times, you aren't going to be paying your bills. So entrepreneurship can be very stressful. And if you've got high anxiety, and don't take this with a pinch of salt, if you have high anxiety, you're going to find it harder to get through some of the issues that you get with entrepreneurship. However, I get anxious at times. Everyone gets anxious at times. However, you learn to cope with it being an entrepreneur, and you get better and better and better at it. So do take that with a pinch of salt. If people want to go down the 9-to-5 route, then you should go and be an employee. Okay, and then there's 2 routes you can take from being an employee. You can go down and pick a small business to work for, or you can go and work for a big corporation. Working for a big corporation would be like working at Apple, working at IBM, all these big industries. And if you picked an industry that's tech, then you'd go and work potentially for Microsoft, Apple, all these routes. Benefits you get from a corporation is good holidays, potentially. You get to work in an area. So let's say you go and work in sales, you will solely be doing sales, okay? They won't really get you to do a bit of this and a bit of that. You tend to just work in your avenue. There are big benefits such as high scale, so you can grow up really quickly within a business that's a corporation, because there's set hierarchy and structures in place. However, there are so many benefits of working for a small business. New tech companies are great businesses to work for if you pick the industry of tech. However, working for a small business is going to allow you to grow with the business and learn the implications and issues you have as a small business as they grow which could later on in life turn you over to become an entrepreneur because you've seen the struggles without taking any of the hits. It is less secure to work in a small business. Or if you want to go down the entrepreneurial route, and like I said, if you struggle with stress and all these other things, it might not be the avenue for you. You can go down two routes as an entrepreneur. You can go the big corporation entrepreneur, where you want to be the next Amazon, the next Gymshark, all these big companies. Or you can go down the lifestyle entrepreneur. And lifestyle entrepreneur is the entrepreneur that travels a lot, has a few clients, and makes a good living to just literally travel the world and go and see places whilst also earning a very good income. So this is what I call going small, which is like starting an e-commerce. And don't get me wrong, they can turn into these big corporations. However, lifestyle entrepreneurs already have set out in their head that they want to travel, they want to travel a lot and be on the go. So they go and do remote jobs like owning an e-commerce, reselling goods online, anything along those, anything that utilizes a lot of online and allows you to work remotely. That's a lifestyle entrepreneur. So if you want to go down that route, that's the route for you. So a lot of people don't realize is that either route that you take, there are millionaires. There are employees who have worked themselves to the top of IBM, to the top of Apple, to the top of Amazon, who are multi-millionaires. So it does not mean that you have to go and be an entrepreneur to be super successful in life. And I can almost guarantee you, you're going to be doing a lot of work to get to that millionaire stage. And people who are working within a business as an employee and have made millions are working extremely hard. And the same for the entrepreneur. They are working extremely hard to get to that stage of becoming a millionaire. So no matter what route you take, and I really stress on this because some people are thinking I can only make millions and earn a lot of money by becoming an entrepreneur. And that is just not true. You might actually be better off from your personality, from the industry that you're in, going the employee route and working yourself to the top and still earning a very, very good income in the millions. Don't get me wrong. You're not going to become a billionaire being an employee. There's very few billionaires or employees. However, the amount of people that are billionaires in the world is like 0.01%. Okay, so entrepreneur or employee is going to be difficult to get to that stage. Millionaires, there are millionaires that are employees. So do not think, oh, I need to be an entrepreneur to become a millionaire. You can be an employee and still earn very, very, very good money, and probably more efficiently if that is your personality type. So there you have it, everyone. That is how you can pick your career or potentially go down an industry that is more logical for you rather than going off gut instinct, by asking those 5 simple questions and then using the framework that I outlined, whether you should be an employee or go the entrepreneurial route. Guys, if you liked this video, make sure to smash that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next video.